Hey, what's up? I'm Darkbblue, trying to help everyone enjoy games in depth. This video will teach you the fundamental logic of theory crafting in the Slormancer, so that you can enjoy the fun of cooking a build by yourself. Let's start with the most important mechanic, stat conversion. Effects such as this one are called conversion. You gain a target stat based on a certain percentage of a source stat. What's the meaning of using conversion than stacking the target stat directly? Consider this example. Suppose we are converting max life into evasion and evasion into armor. Does this indicate that we can first stack max life bonus, then stack evasion bonus, and finally stack armor bonus to eventually gain huge armor? The answer is no, because stat gained from conversion is added flat value after all the bonus calculation. So this is not a doable thing. But wait, we can notice that after gaining the target stat, our source stat is not reduced or consumed in this conversion progress. It's still there, so now we have twice the amount of stats distributed in two stats. So this is what conversion in the Slormancer truly means. You can gain multiple stats by stacking only one of them. More concretely, what you want is to gain both offensive and defensive stats by stacking only one core stat. For example, the most classic and representative conversion chain is life stacking. In such builds, we stack only max life, but through conversion, we gain both raw damage and evasion in correspondence to offense and defense, respectively. In another example, I can stack evasion with hunters, converting evasion into max mana into mana log, and mana log into raw damage. Here, evasion works as a defense stat, and raw damage works as the offensive stat, both gained by stacking only evasion. So, in summary, the first step when theory crafting is to come up with a meaningful conversion chain, so that you can solve the offensive and defensive problems at the same time by stacking only one core stat. Based on the information above, you can decide on a core stat such as max life, evasion, or armor. Naturally, you want to spend a lot of pure stats stacking it, but you can just stack this stat only, as some non-core stats like crit chance or ancestral chance should also be stacked. Personally, I divide such non-core stats into three types. Stats you don't need at all, stats you need but with a cap, and stats you need and without a cap. For example, if you are playing a projectile build, normally you don't need to stack any melee-related stats, so these stats lie in the first type. Crit chance is important for every build, as it increases your damage output, but stacking it exceeding 100% is meaningless, so this stat is capped at 100%. However, crit damage doesn't have a cap. With the three types clarified, now look at the three panels to the left of your inventory. In these panels, list your character stats. You can go through them and make decisions about each of them. Next, I will introduce some notable stats. Life and mana recovery come from three sources: regeneration, unhit, and leech. Basically, since endgame builds hit very frequently and deal very high damage, unhit and leech effects are much stronger than regeneration. Nevertheless, you only need one unhit and one leech stat, but no more than that. Attack speed and cooldown reduction are both important, even if you are using a fast skill. A fast skill still has a 0.33 seconds cooldown in the Slormancer, which can be reduced only through cooldown reduction. For example, this is the effect of stacking only attack speed, and this is the effect of stacking both, using roughly the same amount of total stats. Crit chance and ancestral chance indeed have a cap of 100%, but commonly it's very hard to really cap them. Normally, I don't recommend trying to cap them. The per element resistance and tenacity of defense stats also deserve a discussion. In the Slormancer, you have a basic stat called elemental resistance, which reduces the elemental damage you take. So if you aim to take less damage, you should stack this stat rather than this per element resistance, such as ice resist or shadow resist. Then what's the purpose of these stats? It's to make you less vulnerable to status effects. Next, about tenacity, this stat helps you reduce knockback and crowd control effects, but it only does that. So tenacity might not be that mandatory, it's more like a quality of life stat. However, the discussion just now is based on a common condition. You don't stack evasion at all. If you do stack evasion, you can simply evade most attacks, so you won't be inflicted with status effects, won't be knocked back, and won't be crowd controlled. This leads to an important conclusion. If you stack evasion, you don't need to stack any per element resistance and tenacity. If you don't stack evasion, follow the following suggestion. 100% ice resist, as this resist only reduces the infliction chance of ice bomb's frozen effect, not its duration. 80% shadow and light resist. Their status effects are very dangerous, but their duration can be reduced by their resistance, so you don't need to cap them. And 20 to 40% of fire resist to reduce the burn DOT damage. And you don't need to stack any lightning resistance as its effect is not dangerous at all. And lastly, you can cap tenacity at 100%. Finally, let's take a look at the third page. For melee, we have recast, overdrive, and inner fire chances. For any melee build, you should stack recast chance, but not necessarily capping it at 100%. Then based on what build you are playing, decide whether or not to stack overdrive and inner fire chances. Of them, inner fire chance can be harder to cap, so you don't need to cap it. For projectile, you have pierce, rebound, and fork chances. Normally, you want to cap all of them unless a projectile skill explicitly states it cannot benefit from a certain stat. So far, we have learned both the core static conversion mechanic and some advice for non-core stats. Now let's talk about terminal mechanics, such as overdrive, inner fire, or some class-exclusive mechanics which determine the appearance of a build. The first thing you need to know about this is that all of these mechanics have in-game glossary as explanation. To see them, select a passive skill related to a mechanic and hover your mouse on it. After a second, some glossaries will show. In this way, you can access such knowledge whenever you need. Then I want to talk about inner fire and overdrive. You know there are pierce, rebound, and fork chances for projectiles. Similar to that, recast, overdrive, and inner fire chances are basic chances exclusive to melee. As long as you stack their chances, when you hit an enemy with a melee skill, there's a chance you trigger them. Besides this, certain non-melee skills may also be able to trigger overdrive or inner fire, which are unlocked via certain passives. For example, a certain passive of throwing sword, a skill of knight, enables it to trigger overdrive. Lastly, we need to know how to really test a build. First select the battlefield and then choose race 10. Now at the top right corner you see a plus sign. Here you can toggle to race 10 plus 100, which is much harder than race 10. In this mode, you can truly test the limit of your build. However, the reward of race 10 plus 100 is still the same as race 10, so there's no need to really grind at this difficulty level. If your build cannot do race 100, alternatively you can downgrade the difficulty to Primordial Nether Realm and the Great Forge Wave 100 at race 10. If a build cannot even complete the two, maybe something's wrong with its design. All in all, I hope this video can open the possibility for you to theorycraft by yourself. In this way, you will get more fun from this game. If you want to play games into depth together with me, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you around.